Hello.
Welcome to Astrology 2024. I'm Michael. I think I know many of you. Some of you are new here, your friends, some brought by your friends, in your wheelhouse. We're going to be going. I'm going to be going through with my wife, Christina, who will join in a moment. The Astrology of 2024, and it also says and beyond. So we're going to talk about some things that came before 2024 and some things that are happening after 2024. Just as a little pre-setup, we're going to talk about some things that had happened before 2024, thousands of years ago. Cosmic time. Some things very long ago. And if you're not familiar with some of these things, maybe just be open to hear them. In astrology, we usually just put it to science. Has anybody heard of cause and effect? Probably one of the things they taught in earlier in physics for every cause and effect. That's a spiritual principle. It's a karmic principle, the Dharma principle. If something's in motion and unfolding at this point in time, there are things in previous times that have put that into motion. And so sometimes to understand why something's happening now, we look back in time. And some of the things happening now at a global, at a societal level, at a cultural level, at a karmic level, have ties to things hundreds, thousands, and much more expanded time version back. We won't spend, I don't want to say too much time there, but just so you know the art, we're going to go cosmic time, then we're going to go galactic time, and earth time, and kind of zero in to 2024, and makes the ball drop. And then we'll talk about specific things in 2024. While we go through this, I'm going to have a few opportunities for you to hone in on your own charts. No worries either way how you answer this. How many of you feel sort of confident to at least know what the signs are in your chart and the planets? Like if I said find Aries in your chart, you'd be able to find the sign of Aries. If you don't, it's no problem. So we'll help you with that. So if I say find Aries in your chart, you've got a couple handouts. Number one of the handouts have all the symbols. So if that said find Aries, we would look for that Aries symbol that looks like the two ram horns in there. And then you look at your own chart and find that. I'm not going to have to do that.
We're all doing it.
Yeah. And then there's another color chart that says how to read a chart. And so it has some arrows pointing different things, but also go over that a little bit more later. And then there's another thing with all the symbols of the different planets and luminaries, and that has a lot of words on it. But hopefully that's a quick reference chart at any time that you can look at it and find things if you're having trouble, if you're not familiar with the symbols. You can always ask a question on how we can create. There'll be a lot of information here. I think we have addressed this year as the Aquarian age. We have assumed people. How many of you are familiar with the word Aquarian age or the concept? How many of you have just heard it from the song, The Age of Aquarius? Maybe you're curious, you're maybe like, I don't know about that, that's a little bit off. Whatever it is, I'll address that and why we call it the seed people. And again, feel free at any time to raise a hand and ask a question. Something on the technology. In the olden days, astrologers would cast charts by hand. They would draw all the aspects. But now we have computers. That isn't okay. So the Aquarian age, this is the symbol for Aquarius. You maybe just to have a little grounding, look on the outer wheel of your chart, the part where there's red, green, blue symbols, and see if you can find these two squiggly lines. Maybe circle them just as a reference points to that. When I say find Aquarius in your chart, you'll be like, I know exactly what that is. The Aquarius symbol, this is the zodiac symbol as a form, and then sometimes when it's embodied as a human, it's a person pouring out water. And that's the age of Aquarius. And we'll talk about what this symbol means, but Aquarius is the water bearer. So there's something about this energy that we're coming into that has to do with water. Water, if we're talking spiritually, pointed to consciousness and how consciousness flows between things. And so something about Aquarian energy has a lot to do with how consciousness unfolds and flows. And so anywhere in anybody's chart, wherever Aquarius energy is, wherever you just circled, has a lot to do in your own chart about how consciousness awakens to you personally. And so even though your sun might not be in Aquarius, something about where we just circled in your chart is where you will receive revelations, understandings. Sometimes they're traumas, but the traumas will sometimes awaken us to a deeper truth of consciousness. You can think probably about something in your life where it's the hardest thing that ever happened to you. You don't want to do it again, but you learned the most. And you carry that with you, and it's deep in your soul, it's deep in your understanding of who you are. So Aquarius also has to do that. It's revelation and trauma and awakening in consciousness, or the flow of water. Now, we're getting cosmic. There's the age of Aquarius, and I'll explain all the different ages, but there's not just one set of dates, but many seem to think that the age of Aquarius began around the year 2000, 23 years ago, and it will persist until the year 4150. Now, if you're just sticking in consensus cultural history, that's a long way out. And who the heck cares about a date that's almost 2160 years in the future? Well, we'll talk about why, because it also relates to things that have happened in the past. This transition into the age of Aquarius takes about 100 years. So just think about right now, it's fall, it's coming on winter, it's not officially winter, but we're starting to transition into winter. It's snowed, the leaves are off the trees, but the transition into winter maybe takes a few weeks to a few months. A season is 3 months long. An age is 2,000 years long. So it has a longer time that it takes to transition so that it feels like we're into this new energy. And so people were picking it up in the 60s and the 50s. The energy was in the field. It was definitely in the field during the great 60s revolution. Consciousness exploded at that time. Doesn't mean that it was right or wrong, it just exploded. And the explosion of consciousness went into areas of music. A lot of spirituality expanded for people in the West, where they started to look at yoga and self-help and other mystical ways to connect to their spiritual path. It also awakened people about gender and sexuality, the use of plant medicines, cultural rights, civil rights. It doesn't say whether these played out well, but people awoken to them. And they were beginning to awaken to something that is a 2,000-year cycle. So what people understood in 1960 was the very, 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 very beginning of a new way of perceiving, or a remembered way of perceiving. And some of those remembered ways of perceiving may have been off-kilter first. And so for the past 70 years, up until now, we've been exploring what started to come out in the 1960s. And we're still at the very beginning of understanding what happened at that time. Sometimes like, why don't people get it? They should know to recycle, and everybody should do this and this and that. We're talking about a huger expansion of consciousness than just what came out in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and up until now. And so by 2050, that's when the season will start to really feel like the season. Like right now, a couple days ago, it's kind of warm here. It doesn't quite feel like winter, but it sort of feels like winter. When it is January 1st, it's going to feel like winter. Does that make sense? And so this is like the January 1st date where it feels like the age of Aquarius has arrived. And so that's kind of why that we are the seed people. We're the farmers and gardeners and people who are cultivating this age. And what we do now matters, even if we don't know it. We're planting seeds for the next cycle of these 2,000 years. And just like what you do in the springtime, if you choose to plant butter lettuce and other things, that will be what the harvest is in the fall. Whatever seeds we're planting now, whether we know it or not, is what people will be harvesting on the planetary cycle for a long time. And so it matters much what we do with our consciousness at this time, even if we can't realize the fullness of this age. Does that make sense? It's like a farmer being like, I don't know if I really want to plant crops in the spring because I can't see them. It matters much when it comes to the fall and it's time to harvest. And so the four most recent ages, we're at the age of Aquarius. Okay. The previous age was the age of Pisces. This was 2000 BCE up to the year 0. And Pisces is associated a lot with Jesus or Christ consciousness. A lot of people use the fish, the symbol of the Pisces, to represent that biblical time. And the Bible does too. The Bible has astrology encoded throughout everywhere. The previous age before that was the age of Aries for 2,000 years. And it was the year 4000 BCE to 2000 BCE. Just so you get a little hint, the very end of that age was when Plato and Socrates lived, and Confucius. They were about 2500 BCE. They were at the very end of the Aryan age. The age of Taurus, now we're getting way back there, 6000 BCE to 4000 BCE. And each one of these ages is like a season, like spring, summer, fall, winter. And so they all have their own flavor of consciousness. And the symbols of the zodiac are embedded throughout the Bible, but also everywhere. In Babylon, in Macedonia, and Egypt, they're embedded over here in the Americas. The native peoples of the cultures of Americas do these same ages. So this is not just something that's Western astrology, this is universal astrology. But if we want to go biblical for a moment, these are the symbols, and they're in the Bible everywhere. When the Bible starts off, there's a lot of talk of gold and holding calves and using that imagery everywhere. And then it goes into the lamb and the blood of the lamb and using the symbol of that. And then when Jesus comes, it's the Pisces and the fish and the fisher of men. And then in the book of Revelations, it references Aquarian age with these mystical symbols that are related to Aquarius. And just to leave it there, the Magi are astrologers. That's what the word Magi means. And it's where the word magic comes from. So the three wise astrologers who knew the star symbols came because they knew a being of enlightenment was being born. And they were from the Zoroastrian tradition. We have these words embedded everywhere. You can go look it up now and Google what does Magi mean, and you will find the first description as astrologer. Now, this may be something you're familiar with, or this is the first time you've heard it, so just have an open heart. There are cycles of time on our planet that are much larger than we are aware of at a personal level. And one of the cycles is almost 26,000 years old or long. The exact cycle is 25,920, but we'll round it up to 26,000 so you don't have to remember that specific number. And the Greeks referenced it. Plato wrote a lot about this cycle. And you're like, wait, how did Plato know about a 26,000 year cycle? Go look up Platonic year and Google it. He talks about a 26,000 year cycle of consciousness that's unfolding on the planet. Oh, and then the yogis do the same thing. They call it the 4 yugas. And how long do they say it is? Well, there are some different variations, but they're all in the same alignment. Some say it's 26,000, some say it's 432 million year long cycle. But there are cycles that are even bigger than this one. But we're focusing on a smaller, large cycle. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so the yogis will agree that the smaller, large cycle is 26,000 years long. And also the Lakota and the native peoples here have the same, speaking of this time, the Lakotas talk about a 26,000 year cycle, and they call it the 4 directions. And they use a buffalo to reference. We'll talk about that for a second. In the Greek writing about it, they call it the gold, silver, bronze, and iron age. The yogis call it Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali. And NASA is well aware of this cycle. Now, if you go Google the precession of the equinoxes and put in NASA, you will find more than enough information to boggle your mind about this cycle, that it's not just some woo-woo spiritual thing. And NASA uses this cycle, 26,000 years, for lots of things. And they've studied the Greeks, they've studied the Lakota, they studied the yogis, they studied the Egyptians to understand why they all knew this before NASA did. This 26,000 year age cycle is broken into 12 ages, named after the zodiac: Aries, the age of Pisces, the age of Aquarius. And so this, if you divide 26,000 by 12, anybody have a calculator? I'll tell you the difference between these two numbers. 2,160 years. That's how long each astrological age is. So the age of Aries, the age of Pisces, the age of Taurus, the age of Aquarius, and you add them all up, they equal this number. This is a little.
Sorry, did you say NASA was the precession in the equinoxes?
Yeah, that's like the most technical term. And it's pre-session, not pro-session. Pre means to go backwards. Pro means to go forward. And so it's the pre-session of the equinoxes. So if we go to the astrological months, the month of Aries is followed by the month of Taurus. However, in the pre-session of the equinoxes, Aries is followed by Pisces, going backwards. It's a counterclockwise clock of consciousness. Now, Kali Yuga. This is what many think that we or feel that we are currently in or just transitioning out of. That's the Sanskrit word for it. The Lakota word would be winter. The Greeks would say we are now in the Iron Age of consciousness. What can you maybe intuitively talk about that age? It's the last in the list of all of them. Would you think consciousness is very awake and balanced and full of truth and illumination, or do you think it's not the density of forgetfulness of truth and illumination? We're talking about a great cycle on the planet, so any one individual can transcend the age, but the general consensus on the planet, turn on your TV and watch political ads. Is everybody telling the truth now? So some say once we've entered into this fourth stage of consciousness here in the Satya Yuga or the Golden Age, truth and illumination is 100% everywhere. Everything is absolutely true at all times, and truth is known everywhere at once. In the Treta, it decreases not instantly, but over time to 75%. We forget 75% of truth. Dwarka is 50. Kali Yuga and the Iron Age is 25% or less of truth and illumination is present at general consensus reality. And so we do things like greed, war, destruction, rape, pilfering of the earth, you name it, we're doing it. And you could say, is it done on purpose and consciousness, or is it forgetfulness? The answer is yes to both. It is both conscious and unconscious. And this age began sometime around the year 3100 BCE and persisted through about the 1900s, start of the 19th and 20th century. But this is a very long period of time, and it's a 300-year transition. So we're still about 70 some more years until we're clear of feeling this energy in the field of density, of decreased consciousness, of doing things that are against our highest good. I won't belabor this one a little too long, but if you want to wrap your head around it, this is a picture of our galaxy, the Milky Way. Our sun is in one of the bands of the galaxy, and our sun is 26,000, or actually 25,920 light years away from the center of the galaxy. Don't you think that's interesting that its distance is the same as an age? And again, you can Google this, and again, NASA confirms this. This from here. This is our solar system moving through space at a galactic perspective. That's the sun in the middle, and all the planets spiral around it. And so when we're shown this depiction of our solar system as a flat disk, just moving around and around and around, we are spiraling the galaxy like a cosmic cannonball going around the sun's darting through, and the arms of the galaxy are going up and down too over time. And so we are moving in consciousness through time and space, also related to the galactic center. The ancients and all the traditions knew this, and they knew how long it took for our galaxy to rotate once. The Mayans have known this, the Greeks have known this. And so this is not something that's modern knowledge. This is ancient knowledge, and it's embedded in architecture, art, and old stone megaliths and papyrus, and the ancient teachings. The elders know this, and so they know our place in our cosmic galaxy. And they know that there is an unfolding of consciousness that relates not only to our sun, but also to the galactic center. This is another depiction. Here's our sun in the band of the galaxy. We're going up and down over time and also spiraling through the arms of the galaxy. It takes 270 million years to rotate once around the galaxy. And guess what? All the ancients know this. This is getting a little more nerdy. I'll put this out when they send out the slideshow. But as a quick reference, just so that you've at least heard it once in your life, when the Mayans said in 2012, on December 21st, on the winter solstice, that something was happening and the news media said it's at the end of the world, They were speaking about a great cycle of time where we were rising and going above the galactic plane. And for the first time in 13,000 years, our solar system went to the north of the galactic plane, and there was a big shift in consciousness. It's like we came out of the underwater line and took the first breath of air in a very long time. It doesn't mean we were instantly enlightened, but it means we got the first breath of air. And for the collective, an individual can always transcend the collective at any time. The collective weather is saying, wake up. The opportunities there. We all have free will. This is just another little looking at it. Our solar system and sun passed north of the galactic plane for the first time in 13,000 years. And again, yes, NASA knew this, and it's confirmed by all the space agencies, and the Mayans had embedded it in their calendar for a very long time. And this is the time when it happens. And they said there'll be a shift in consciousness, and they called it a new sun or a new age is born. It's like the sun rose out of the galactic plane and was being birthed again for the first time. The Mayans also said, among many other cultures, from the years 2012 to 2025, it would potentially be a very chaotic time, depending upon what the collective does with free will choice.
Can you just say that statement again?
What's that?
Can you say that statement again?
The prophecies from the Mayans said that 2012 or 2025 would potentially be chaotic, depending upon how the collective people on this planet use their free will choices. So it didn't have to be chaotic, but they also knew that the pervading weather was people would probably use free will choice in a lower density way.
Yeah.
They could have chose otherwise, so it's not predestined. And this is also a point to keep in mind about astrology. Astrology is not about fate or destiny, but it's about looking at frequencies of things that are likely. And you can say likely things will unfold, just like if the pressure drops outside, the barometric pressure, you would say it's likely going to rain. It's not foretold that it has to. Question?
Well, this is kind of a stupid question, maybe, but why? Because there's so much more knowledge now and people waking up, but yet the collective is acting totally the opposite of, I mean, why isn't that? I mean, I don't know if that makes, if I'm saying that right, but it seems like so many people, consciousness is waking up, but then you look at all the wars and the politics and everything that's going on. It's like, why aren't more people waking up?
Well, depends upon one's perspective. One can look out and say, oh my God, the world's going to hell and investigate. People are crazy, it's getting worse. Some people look out and say, I see more people waking up, more consciousness, more people seeking. The answer is probably both at the same time. One energy is going this way and one's going that way. And people can choose by free will choice what they want to focus their attention on, what they want to choose. And I went back to this slide because this is a 300-year transition. People might be waking up, but it's a long time. It's a long in-between season. It's a long change of the tides relative to one person's lifetime. It doesn't mean that things can't transition quicker, but while we're in the mix and in the in-between time, people choosing to see the world as hell in the handbasket and go with it, they add to the energy of more chaos. Those that choose to hold love in their heart and light and consciousness and help others up, they choose to put into the field reconstruction, rebuilding, reawakening, remembering, intuitive ways of being. And there's people doing both at the same time. And probably all of us, one day we're one way and the next day we're like, I don't think this is gonna work.
Yeah.
And so astrology also puts that in the field and they are. It's not saying you're wrong, but wobbling when it wobbles the field. Even if there's a lot of people with heart consciousness in here, doubting it also puts doubt back into the field. It's not a don't do it. It's the way it is.
There's also a mainstream voice that speaks to us. So there's oftentimes in our hearts a sense of awakening and intuitive awareness, but it doesn't match up with always what we're being told through big influencers. And so we tend to say to ourselves, I must be wrong because everyone's saying this is right. And so we dummy down what our internal knowing is to follow the collective speak or the group think. So it's also important to listen to your inner voice.
And to go with that, I was asking you today, so I was coming back from Ohio, right, where I'm from, and we were visiting my police there, my wife, Christina, and I said, oh, isn't the politics in Ohio atrocious? And I said, I don't even know what politics in Ohio. I think that's the right way, but turn off the TV, stop reading the newspaper, stop getting addicted to social media.
Yeah.
And feel for yourself, you know, when I go out on the streets in Ohio and I talk to people, I think they're less. So, I don't know, it's not unfair, but, you know, another way to say this is be discerning about what you let in your field of consciousness, what you allow your five senses to consume. A good start to being a seed person to the age of Aquarius and be much more discerning about what you allow in your field. What you eat, to who you talk to.
Yeah.
If you can't always, you know, have people removed from your field, at least put up more discerning borders between allowing certain things in. I mean, I know how it is. If we go to a restaurant and there's a TV in, I'm suddenly looking at it, and I don't even want to watch what's out there. You know, that's in the field now. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I just want to be more discerning. It's not being ignorant, but go ahead.
Someone said I have no source, but I believe her. She said something like, it only takes 3% of the population to really start to shift mindset, because I had always, right, when I was thinking about this, like, I don't know, I think I was thinking everybody had to change their mind, or everybody had to be awakened, or everybody had to, whatever, be doing the work, or whatever you want to call it, right, to actually shift things, and this 3% number was, you know, giving some hope, but I was curious if you heard that, or have another, obviously it's not exact same. It's sort of have any like,
I believe in a critical mass tipping point, that if enough of us get it, it shifts consciousness. I haven't heard 3%, but I like that low number.
all that good stuff.
But I do think that, it's kind of like the 100th monkey theory, if you heard of that. And they thought one monkey had to get the coconuts out of the tree from shaking it as opposed to climbing it. And so when the one monkey did that, the second monkey saw it and did it, and so on and so forth, until the 100th monkey did it, and then all monkeys on every continent got it unilaterally. And it's a theory, but I believe that that's a possibility for us, that if enough of us tune into our own knowing, that enough of us will start doing that automatically. And
I'll give you two tricks to go with that. We'll first go to the science side. There's something called nucleation. You can look this up too. When a body of water freezes, the whole lake doesn't have to freeze for the whole lake to freeze. There's a critical tipping point where, I don't know what the number is, but it's low. It's below 15%. Over 50%, the less of the water molecules turn to ice. There's a moment where the whole lake will snap. The ice will go all the way across. Called nucleation. It repeats itself over and over in different science, in different ways in biology and physics. That's one of the terms. The other, and Katrina's been sharing this a lot in class, if we're talking soul and spirit, when the soul and spirit reaches a more illuminated state, its magnetism and power is magnitudes greater. So if 3%, let's just go with that number, of people are more awake, their magnetism is way greater than the percent that is below it. It's like super magnets in the field, and I think that will charge. It's like if you get around somebody and you feel their heart, like it radiates off them, they don't have to say anything, and it's contagious, it goes out. You feel it, but you think that, yes, not to focus on the number, but not everybody has to get it, but if some hold the energy, it puts that in the field and it becomes so magnetic that others gravitate towards it. So I put this in here, galactic time, that's what we're calling this 25,920 year cycle, or around a 26,000 year cycle. It curves 1 degree every 72 years, so it's subtle. Meaning, if I look up in the sky and look at the North Pole star, 72 years earlier, it would have been 1 degree backwards. And if I stood there for 26,000 years looking up, the North Pole star would go backwards through the sky all the way around until it came back around again. Does that make sense? So the sky is subtly moving backwards against time to our perception. And so the stars that you're looking at now are not the same star alignments that were above us 13,000 years ago. And what we call the North Pole star is not the same North Pole star. It changes over time because the sky changes. The star Vega was the North Pole star 13,000 years ago. And a lot of ancient megaliths in Turkey and in Egypt and here in the Americas have buildings that are aligned to the star Vega. Those who don't know think they were off the mark. They're like, well, they don't know where the North Pole star was. It must have been cave people. They knew exactly where it was. They built these buildings according to the star alignments when it was aligned when time was different and consciousness was different. But everything comes back around, just like the moon comes to the same place every 28 days. And the sun comes to the same place every year, your birthday, so it will return right back where you were. And Pluto is just a longer cycle. Pluto goes back to the same place every 248 years. And so astrology is all about cosmic times. There's different cycles playing out at different rates of time. Space does the same thing, and quantum physics is starting to say this. Time space is curved. Einstein and Tesla were playing around with this, and quantum physicists have been talking about it now. It's another word for karma. If you get on an airplane and fly east long enough, you will come from the west. Time space is curved. If time is curved, then space is curved. They're inexorably linked together. If space is curved, then time is curved. And here's a little aphorism from the yogic wisdom, and also the Buddha said something similar. Be mindful of your thoughts. Thoughts become your judgments. Judgments become your beliefs. Beliefs become your words. Words become your actions. Actions become your habits. Habits become your character, and character becomes your destiny and karma. What you did in the past is going to leap around and meet you in the future. And this applies to individuals and planets. Does that make sense? Karma is curved. Time space is curved. Time is curved. Space is curved. So the previous age before the age of Aquarius was the age of Pisces. From the time of Jesus' birth up until the year 2000, give or take a few years. Just because an age is playing out, question?
Real quick, I'm getting confused on the Kali Yuga versus these ages. What?
Think of it this way. How many months are in a year?
12.
And how many seasons are there?
4.
So the yugas are the seasons and the ages are the months.
Ah, thank you.
Does that help?
Yep.
So they're just different ways of marking time. Some are bigger slices of the pie, some are smaller.
Okay.
So this age, any age can be harmonic or disharmonic. It's all based on free will choice and karma and dharma. There were things in the past age that we could point to that were very disharmonic, but we could also probably point to some harmonic things. But if this age played out in its most positive way, it would have expressed things of love, non-duality, nature is sacred, everything is abundant, meaning there's not scarcity or need to hoard or greed, or there's a limited amount of things. Cosmic perspective, unconditional love, lots of creativity, intuitive knowing, empathetic, peace. There's, as Katrina and our teacher saw, says there's been a war on the planet every day for at least 6,000 years, every day. A direct path to God or spirit, meaning it's between you and your internal heart or your own journey. The age of Pisces is when religion became institutionalized, and so that the difference, if someone asked, at least from this definition, what's the difference between spirituality and religion? Spirituality is a personal journey into the mystical. Religion has codified rules and regulations and steps and often people that are intermediaries between you and spirit.
So in your opinion, what happened? Well, that positive stuff.
We'll get to that.
Oh.
Spiritual, no boundaries, lots of imagination, dreams, and the Sanskrit word would be samadhi or lightness. The negative side, which comes through by karma and free will choice, we can choose to not do these things, is destruction, fear, chaos, depression, scarcity, being locked into the material world, greed, control, religion. God is separate from this, or spirit is separate from this. Domination of nature, war, suffering, asleep, forgetfulness, and dance. Now, I feel like both of these are in the field, but depending upon where we want to focus, we could say, well, it's one or the other. I feel like both were in the field, but it wasn't just the all positive time. And wasn't just the all negative, but you could say there probably sure was a lot of the negative. For every age, there is an opposite and a hidden energy that is available that people are not aware of unless they make a conscious choice. On everybody's chart, see if you can find the sign of Pisces. You can look at your little map there. And then it should be right next to the Aquarius one that you circled. It's blue. Everybody finds Pisces on their own chart.
No.
And then if you go 180 degrees across the circle, you'll find this symbol. Here's the Pisces symbol. You go 180 degrees across, there should be a green symbol that looks like an M with its tail tucked in. That's Virgo. Like a mirror, 180 degrees across the chart. So Virgo is the opposite and balancing energy to Pisces. And so the opposites are always in the same field. In the same way, yin yang are not separate from each other. If it's dark, it will become light. If it's light, it will become dark. If it's hot, it will become cold. You know one energy by its opposite and balancing energy. And so the age of Pisces is not just one independent energy. The last 2,000 years also had Virgo in the field. And the negative side of Virgo is a lot of shame, a lot of guilt. Everything has to be perfect, a lot of control. There's a lot of denial. It's very mental. It's patriarchal. It's suppression. It's destruction. God is external. But the hidden version of the feminine shows up even in the Bible, like the Mary mysteries. That's the Virgo energy that's like mysteriously coded in the Bible. When people say, where's the feminine? There's like the vague reference to Mary and Mother Mary and the feminine. And, you know, the cult of the feminine or the matriarchal wisdom was in there somewhere. But one of the pervading things of the last 2,000 years, a lot of people is shame.
Yeah.
That's Virgo energy when it's been hijacked and suppressed. The other side of Virgo energy is healing, wisdom, and self-love, and embracing, and intuitive, and earth, and matriarchy, and open-hearted, and growth. And God is everywhere, Spirit's everywhere, in everything at all times. So Virgo balances Pisces. Virgo, we went through a lot of these things, but it brings in health, positive free will choices, discernment, nature, sacred, spirit in the physical, being of service to others, humble, Mother Gaia, and the feminine. Doesn't mean it was completely gone. There were many wisdom keepers over time and traditions and cultures that held this. Is there a question or anything? Now we're at 2024. How's everybody feeling about that cosmic perspective? I put it out there because it's not necessarily 2024, but it helps us remember our place in time and space and greater cycles that are unfolding. And 2024 is, from this perspective, a blip in time and a great revolving of consciousness. It doesn't mean it's insignificant, but sometimes if we're freaking out about a single year, or we're locked into a single perspective based on consensus reality, to have a cosmic perspective can help us step back and see there are greater things unfolding, and there can be a different way of seeing what's playing out. You have anything to say, Katrina? So as a reminder, there are astrologies that happen as time unfolds that may happen once in a year or once every decade or once every 10 or 100 years. And then there's things that happen every year. And it's called the Wheel of the Year. And if you don't know these terms already, these are good ones to get in your consciousness every year. But these are also the dates for 2024. Impulse. It's the first big wheel of time. And you all know Impulse, but you may know it by a different name. What day is February 2nd? Groundhog's Day. It's not an accident that Groundhog's Day is placed there. It is the exact midpoint between winter solstice and the spring equinox. It's called the mystical quarter season, and it's a time to tune in. Impulse means in the belly, what's going to be birth. And so it's the energies that are going to be birthed in spring have already started to come into fruition in gestation. And many ancient cultures everywhere celebrate this by different names, but they all have it. By the way, the Catholic Church and many other churches have placed holidays on every one of these dates.
Yeah.
Can't remember the Catholic one, but Candle Mass. Spring equinox, you all know this one. Equal day, equal night as the light is returning. This year it's March 19th. And the reason why it changes dates, some years it's March 20th, March 24th. It's not because it can't decide, but we're overlaying the Gregorian calendar onto the wheel of the year calendar. The Gregorian calendar is different than the wheel of the year calendar. Does that make sense? The Gregorian calendar is put by Pope Gregory. It doesn't mean bad, but it's a different system. It's not based in nature. And so they will drift against each other. Beltane is the midpoint between spring and summer. You know it is May Day. And yes, it's a celebration of fertility and union of the masculine and feminine. And if you just go out into nature and what's happening in May, flowers and trees and animals and water and rain is abundant and life is pouring forth, at least in the northern hemisphere. Summer solstice is June 20th, the peak of the light. And then this one is probably the least well known to people, Lamas. But again, there is this is the Catholic Church calls this one Lofmas. It's on August 2nd. This is the celebration of the harvest and of the fruits that were planted back here. And it's the first grain. It celebrates a lot of the cereal wheats, the ones that have pulses. The pulse is the heartbeat of the next generation, what we grind and make bread and cereals. It's a very, all of them are sacred. This is one of my favorites. And then fall equinox, we just passed that one. Samhain doesn't look the way it's written because these are Gaelic words. You all know what October 31st is. Halloween, All Hallows Eve. And of course, the next day after that is Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. And the Catholic Church is like All Souls and All Saints Day right there. And this is the exact midpoint between fall and winter. And then of course, winter solstice is coming up in under 3 weeks. So these are things that you can mark every year as seasonal astrology or called the wheel of the year. And the ones in white are the well-known seasons, and the yellow ones are the mystical quarter seasons. And these are the ones where the energy fields are wide open because there's two currents of energy coming through at that point. I'll just speak to this one for a moment. Halloween, All Hallows Eve, and Samhain, they're all related to the dead. All of those holidays, All Souls, All Saints Day, because at this time, the portal between life and death is wide open, and the veil is thin at that time, and the energies are coming through for us to connect with the mystical world. And this is just represented on the wheel, some layered symbols. These are some other words in Gaelic. You don't have to use them, but you can see the wheel of life. And the symbol is everywhere. It's the eight-pointed wheel. The yogis use it. The Buddhists use it. Many traditions use this. It's embedded on a compass. The compass is also referring to this. It's not just directions. And so then there's the solar months. This happens every year. You know this: Aquarius, Pisces, Aries. Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. You don't need to be reminded of all this, but these are the astrological or solar months as they relate to the energies of the sun. The Gregorian calendar does not follow this. I'll tell you about a study that NASA did. This one's very fascinating. Sometimes it helps us or helps us talk to other people that may not quite be in this world yet, but there's sacred science, and sacred science will always confirm spirituality. They're not meant to go against each other, so they're sacred. Astrology and sacred science. NASA studied energies that the sun puts off when it passes in front of certain constellations. Well, the sun passes in front of all of these constellations. It's the zodiac or the circle that the path that the sun goes around, and it goes in front of Sagittarius, Scorpio, Libra, Virgo. And NASA documented, and so other studies, that when the sun passes in front of certain star alignments, it puts off a different electromagnetic radiated solar wind. And it changes as it goes in front of another one. And so they said there are 12 different electromagnetic solar winds that come off the sun at different times of year, aligning with the constellations. Different energies. Another way to say electromagnetic is consciousness. Different conscious energies radiate from the sun based on what constellation is behind it. And then the lunar months, another way. These are the new moons of the year. You can just see them, but these mark the word month comes from the moon. We call moon is these cycles. And each new moon follows through the zodiac. It's what sign the moon is in front of. And then these are the full moons. Both. There's not universal names, but different cultures have different moons depending upon where they are. But these are the zodiac names. But these are all the full moons of the year. There is a traditional blue moon in July and August where the moon is in the same sign. That's rare. And so these are also astrological energies that will influence you throughout the year. And so if you're looking for the big one, we'll get to that. But these are rhythmic energies that happen every year that will affect or influence or reflect into your consciousness. If it's hard to conceive that, think of weather. When it's spring, you do springtime things. You dress like spring. You prepare your house for spring. When it's winter, you dress like winter and you do winter things. And so if you say that these are more subtle energies, subtle doesn't mean they're not influencing. Weather is more gross, and by gross, more physical. But there are subtle energies that also play out in the field every year that influence you. So if you want to be on top of it for 2024, follow the moon. Does that make sense? The moon reflects back to us the quality of our mind, the quality of our emotions, how nurtured we feel, whether we're listening to our intuition or not, what memories come into the field. And so these energies will bring up different memories, different intuitions, different emotional fields.
Okay, that's a quick question.
Yeah.
You made a statement that I just didn't catch about the new moons versus the full moons, and when do they align? So the new moon is when the Capricorn, so it would be a new moon when you're entering, a new moon when you're entering Aquarius. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
On January 11th, the new moon will be in the sign of Capricorn.
Okay, it'll be in the sign, but it's not necessarily out of the same thing.
On that day, it will be there. The lunar months are they are slightly different than the solar months.
Yeah. Okay.
When the sun is in Capricorn, in this time, it's from the solstice, December 21st till January 20th. There will be one new moon and one full moon. One of the moons will be in the same sign as the sun, and one of them will be in the exact opposite. That's the way it always goes. So every astrological month, the new moon will be in the same sign as the sun. So here's Capricorn, January 11th. And then here's Capricorn over here, sun is in that sign from December 21st to January 21st. So it's in Capricorn. The full moon will be the opposite sign. Anybody know what the opposite sign of Capricorn is? What's the opposite sign of yours in the solstice?
That's it, it's not.
Cancer, when the summer solstice. So if that's true, then the full moon should be
July 23rd.
in December. The next full moon, I didn't put it here, it's in the next year. The one after Gemini will be Cancer, and that will be January 18th. So sometimes we look the Chinese New Year calendar. Some of you may know your signs. They work on a 12-year cycle, which relates to the planet Jupiter. It's on February 9th, starts off the new season in the field. It's the wood dragon. If you were born in any of these years, you're also a dragon. And why I bring it up, one is the dragon relates to Aquarius energy. So the Chinese New Year and lots of things playing out are pointing to Aquarian energy. Aquarius energy and dragon energy are electric and magnetic. They relate to royal wisdom and prosperity, good fortune, passion, new opportunities, creativity, power. transformation, soul awakening, extreme energies. Leadership, things that are undreamed of successes, but also delusions and crashes. Dynamic shifts in weather and atmosphere and geology, like volcanoes and things with water and tsunamis. They can go either way, but the dragon energy is undulation of earth and undulation of sky. Technology is radically shifted during dragon and Aquarian times. Dragons and Aquarius have to do with wanting to liberate both externally and internally. Dragon is action and growth, and dragon and Aquarian energy both relate to how the microcosm pulls back to the macrocosm. We just did that with our galactic time and our great cycles of time zooming into the year 2024. That's very Aquarian to have that perspective, but very dragon. So this is the biggest energy of 2024 and the biggest energy of the next 20 years, and the energy that's pulling in that shift into the Aquarian age more pronounced, Pluto. Pluto for the past 16 years has been in the sign of Capricorn. That's slow, right? The sun is in one sign for a month. The sun is in Capricorn for 1 month. Pluto is in Capricorn for 16 years. From 2008 to 2024. And during that time, Pluto points to where things need to evolve. Capricorn is society. Society needs to evolve. Doesn't mean that it did, but that's the message that it needs to. The previous time that Pluto was in Capricorn was 1767 to 1777. Those were great times of evolution of society. Not necessarily bad or good, but our revolution, the French Revolution, many other places around the world, there were upheavals. And so Capricorn and Pluto energy point to things that relate to authority, karma, laws, rules, institutions, courts, consequences, structure, time, duty, wisdom, control, manipulation, and suppression. This was in the field for 16 years. Pluto shifted for a little bit this year, 2023, into Aquarius, but it was just from March to June for 3 months. And then it retrograded back into Capricorn, so it is right now. It will go back into Aquarius on the same day that the sun goes into Aquarius in 2024. Don't you think that's interesting? So Pluto, which goes into Aquarius once every 248 years, will join at the same day the sun goes into Aquarius. And then it will stay there until the year 2044. So it will be in this sign for continuously 20 years and intermittently 21 years. The previous time that the Pluto was in Aquarius was 1777 to 1798. Revolutions, nations, there was a change in understanding of science and technology, the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution. The previous time is 1532 to 1553. That's the Reformation, Copernicus, and the Spanish colonial conquest. It's also when the printing press was invented. So themes that come out around Pluto and Aquarius, it doesn't mean whether we will explore these well or not well, or harmonic or disharmonic, but these are the themes. Soul awakening. Free energy and radiant energy. Is it possible, or is it scarcity? That we have enough for everybody. Positive Aquarius says there's more than enough energy for everybody, everywhere, at all times. Innovative, revelations and revolution. Aquarius is the sign that relates to star beings and knowledge that comes off planet. Positive Aquarian energy is unity and diversity, meaning we are able to acknowledge that everyone is a unique being and we can be in diversity. Positive Aquarius energy. Negative Aquarius energy is that absolutely not possible. Soul and science come together, so it's no longer science versus spirit. It's sacred science and sacred spirituality confirm the same things. It's thinking globally and acting locally are positive green things. Aquarius has to do with technology. Whenever energies go into Aquarius, there are explosions in technology at rates that are almost mind-boggling. It relates to galactic consciousness, so it's remembering possibly again that we are in a conscious cycle that relates to the galaxy and greater cycles of time, and that we have a place in the galaxy and the greater system of the universe. Things are instantaneous during the age of Aquarius. It is relating to the energy of lightning. Lightning is instantaneous. It's futuristic. When it's balanced, it's about equanimity and equality. When it's balanced, it's understanding that we are in a unified field of energy and consciousness, and things are non-local and non-dual. We have free will choice. So we can choose to go with this pervading spiritual weather, or we can choose to go against it. Does that make sense? But this is in the field. It's like springtime says it's now time to plant seeds. This would be a really good time to do it. And so Pluto and Aquarius says this is a really good time to harness these energies. There will be rewards and fruit for doing this. So this next 20 years will be a lot of energy of alchemy, transformation, unconscious to conscious, a lot of shifts in society and culture and world like this. It can go either way, but there will be the mass shifts in world consciousness in the next 20 years. It could go chaotic and destructive, or it can go harmonic and harmonizing. But it will be quick and radical either way. At least according to Aquarian Energy. Electric. Pluto and Aquarius, power may resist the structure, changes from hierarchy to equality. So Aquarian energy is we're all equal. We're all souls. We're all on the same plane. The former age of Pisces, which was relating to a lot of hierarchy energy, is not pleased about this. We're stunned by it. So it will do anything it can to resist this. If the energies pervade that way. You'll see strange wars and conflicts come out at this time. Wars over water and conflict over water. Aquarius is the water bearer. And so it's not only consciousness, but literally water. Water will be a big issue, or not. Where it's free for everybody, accessible and clean. Water is also, if we want to go spiritual, it's a vehicle for consciousness. The oceans, the rain, the rivers. When it rains, it's delivering crystal consciousness to our bodies. When we drink a glass of water, if we're drinking spring water that is bubbled up from the earth, we're receiving messages from the earth that goes into our bones, our mind. If we're drinking water from a municipal source that has a lot of chlorine and other things in it, you're getting those messages. Water is a vehicle for consciousness and life. There'll be evolutions and challenges at this time. We'll see evolutions and challenges in our metaphysical understanding of things, and energy systems and banking systems. There'll be a huge either challenge or evolution in relationship to religion, education, government, corporations, and societal structures. Just a few small things. But you can already feel it in the field. Can't you all? I mean, and a lot of people are anxious because they're not sure which way it's going to go. And even if people are wanting change, and maybe some of us as well, we're nervous about the change because some of our structures may fall out. And we're like, but then I don't have the 401k if the banking system changes. I was banking on that. What does that look like? I mean, that's just an example, but a lot of people are triggered rated by money. If things shift around money and your nest egg is shifted, then I don't know if I really want this shift, because I may be challenged by this. So the things that we want, we also don't want them because we like the structure, even if we don't like the structure. And that's why, to go back to your question, and we waffle. Even if we say, I want love and harmony, but I don't want to let go of some of the things that I need for my personal structure. So during this time, there's going to be a lot of movement from physical things going towards the non-physical. So we start to see the underlying energy or pattern behind the physical pattern. And these are all very quantum physics type things. If you look up quantum physics things, the quantum physicists will say the universe is non-dual, non-local, non-material, and a single unified field. That's what the yogis say. And yogis and many ancient traditions have always said the observer determines what is observed. You looking at something will change what it is. And so when people say that's a fact and that's the way it is, it's because your consciousness is observing it that way and that's what you get. And so when we change our observation or change our state of reality, what is observed will also change. Are we going to hell in a handbasket or are we awakening? How you observe it will also influence what it is. Everything is connected is an Aquarian principle. And this is, if you need science, quantum physics says this hands down everywhere. Everything is connected everywhere at once. Particles on opposite side of the universe can talk to each other faster than the speed of light. According to science, that's not possible. Consciousness is pervading everywhere at once. Consciousness is faster than the speed of light. Light is a product of consciousness. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Questions about that? So if we're going with the harmonic direction of the age of Aquarius, we remember again that everything is connected everywhere at once. And everything you need to know is inside of you. It doesn't belong to a pope or the head of the university or the talking head on the TV or the pundits or the expert or the doctor. It's not that they're bad or good, but we don't have to give away our authority and our free will choice to be like, well, it's whatever the politician says, we'll do. You have that information in you always, everywhere at once. But we're also scared of that. Like, what is wrong? What happens if I'd like somebody else to make the choice, then they're responsible. And so wanting absolute intuition also means you have to have the courage to step into it, which is again to like, well, why don't people just do this? There's a lot of fire and courage that it takes to step into these energies. We have to trust ourselves. Trust is the big one for people. How often do you question your own intuition? Pluto is the energy of the soul. So wherever Pluto is joined up, there's going to be evolution, destruction, death, and loss, transformation, regeneration, and resurrection. Pluto is also the energy of the soul, is creativity. So creativity is Shakti, it's a creation force, life, divine intelligence. So there's the possibility of a new awakening and creative ways of seeing that we don't even know right now. Part of this is we don't even know what we don't even know. So the energy is coming down the pike in the next 20 years. We can't even know them. Does that make sense? Because they're coming from the soul. This was just a little crossing between science and the karmic ways of the wheel of life and being born, reincarnation. The law of thermodynamics is reincarnation. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, only transferred from one point to another. Science acknowledges this. But the positive side to the age of Aquarius can be these energies of love, light, freedom, unity, awakening, spirit, community, forgiveness, compassion, liberty, revolution, evolution. Negative, though, is enslavement, fear and control. It's the opposite of all those words. Suppression, division of people and division of places and division of land, and division of everything. Isolation, force, destruction, death. Turning more cyborg than full. AI, it's not whether it's bad or good, but we can use it for cyborg ways. No soul, lots of politics, and it's the 1%. And so there's no guarantee that the age of Aquarius is going to be harmonic. However, your magnetic parts have the ability to put that 3% into a field that is way more attractive than the 1%. That makes sense? So you all are the seed people. What you are doing right now, even if you don't see the full fruition of it physically, matters greatly at this time. Some are choosing this either consciously or subconsciously, but many I feel are striving for this. This is way more magnetic, has way more light force and light force than any of these. And so even if it's just a few moving to this, it has way more power. And Leo energy is the opposite energy of Aquarius. So if Aquarius is starting to go this way, we need this energy to balance it. Lion-hearted, authentic. Authentic is not perfect. Authentic is showing who you truly are with vulnerability and being able to do that open-hearted. Authentic is also playful. So there's a playfulness to it, not so serious. Like a lion cub tussling around. We need play for creativity and seeing new solutions and new possibilities. Balanced Leo energy is very loving, open-hearted, passionate, warm, lion-hearted. It's very responsive and communicative. It's not texting, it's I'll come face to face with you and look you in the eyes and see you. I'm not saying texting's bad, but we need some Leo energy in an age where technology is moving quickly. We need connection. caring, we need to value the individual. So Aquarian is about society, and yes, we have big societal shifts. But we also need to keep in mind the individual. We can't throw out the individual for societal. Bioenergy is also good sovereign leadership, compassion, creativity, and 7 hermetic principles I'll come up in a moment. And being a human being. Sometimes we want to evolve and become enlightened and be like, I want to go and live on the mountaintop or leave this place and go find samadhi. And that's part of the Aquarian energy, but to do that, at least in the astrology things, you also have to be a human being. You can't leave one behind for the other. And that's when it starts to get either over spiritualized, where it's like I just meditate and think, whatever, but I don't take any action or meet people face to face. I'm afraid to see people that I love to meditate. You have to be with people. And so the balance is, of course, we have together, part one. The Greeks called it logos and pathos, it's geometry. Two energies on one side, the masculine and macrocosm. There's that word from the Year of the Dragon, and microcosm. The macrocosm is masculine, it's science, it's math, it's material. The microcosm is feminine, it's art, music, and emotion. You need both. You can't navigate the world without one. And the heart thinks and the mind feels. We've flipped it. We often say, well, only the mind can think, and the heart feels. When the heart starts to awaken, the spiritual heart is a thinking, conscious energy that thinks from a human place. That's being human, that's being connected, that's being caring. To the Katrina did this. This little sparkling light right here, there's many names for it. It's called the spiritual heart. Sanskrit word is Hridaya, and it's referred to as the secret sun. In the Gnostic tradition, it's called the nous Adam. The original knowing of Adam comes from Atman, the soul. It's called the inner sun. And if you want to go science, that's the exact place of the sinoatrial electrical current that makes the heart beat, the inner sun. And so it's awakening back to this spiritual Chittanadi part inside of ourselves. So the positive way of the age of Aquarius is remembering this. If you want to sum down to one thing, it's remembering the inner heart, the spiritual sun, the inner knowing. And yogis call it the Chittanada or the soul or the Hridaya. And it's remembering that all is beyond the mind, but within the heart, fully understood there. So there's many things we may not understand cognitively or linearly, and like it's not possible because I don't understand it. You can understand it completely if you drop into heart consciousness. So this age has the possibility to drop into the heart consciousness. I use this Sanskrit and Vedic teaching from Hanuman while we're going through these switches of ages from Kali Yuga and also out of the age of Pisces. We may experience all of these states of consciousness in 1 minute. One is called Dvaita, which is duality. You know what duality consciousness is, where God or spirit or anything is separate from you and different from you and set outside. Yogis then say qualified non-duality is the Shishta Advaita. And that's where, like, you namaste somebody, and you're like, I kind of see the same light in you, but I got my stuff and you got your stuff. And we're kind of separate, but I recognize it's like kind of happening about getting in. Which is where a lot of people are right now. They're testing the waters spiritually and consciously. They feel like they want to be here, but really there's a lot of emotional attachments to this. It's not saying that this is not a chart of what's right or wrong. More consider this as understand that you will move through all of these. And then the last one is about that pure non-duality, where you feel that everything is one and know it in a heart level. So it's not a mind knowing, it's the heart saying, I know here everything in one. We may think it in the mind, like, yeah, I know that, that's cool. That's this stage. So the Aquarian age is about resonance, group harmony. It's all about frequencies and vibration and waves, energy, and buddhi, which is the higher mind, inner vision, quantum energy, and interbeing. That's a Thich Nhat Hanh word. We've been teaching a book. What's the title? I forget.
A more beautiful world your heart knows is possible by Charles Eisenstein. He used that.
He lays out all the reasons why we have been staying here in duality, and he starts to break them apart and lay out a path of how we can enter more into a state of non-duality. And he looks at it from cultural, societal things. Sit and maybe start using the word sacred science too, because we seem to fit science against spirituality. Science is always meant to be sacred. It's only since more recent years that science has been devoid of spirit, and that's created many problems. The Tesla is a great example of a sacred planet. This is a very Aquarian statement, one of the most famous. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, you can do energy, frequency, and vibration. That is completely Aquarian energy. He's very Aquarian. Look at that lightning behind him. Lightning like this. He's an Aquarian being. He was born during an eclipse during a lightning storm.
Wow.
And the midwife said, "This is bad news." And the mother said, "This is great." And look, here's just different signature patterns of vibration. You start looking at geometry and nature, you'll see this everywhere. This is cymatics. This is sand being vibrated. This is water being vibrated. This is desert sand. This is a coral, and that's your brain. You can see the pattern. You start to see everything's connected and everything is one. Behind all of these is a vibration. This is the physical medium vibrating to it. Einstein was also referring to sacred sciences. Everyone who is seriously involved in the pursuit of science becomes convinced that a spirit is manifesting the law of the universe. A spirit vastly superior to that of man, and one in the face of which we, with our modest powers, must feel humble. There's a principle that embodies this. It's as above, so below, as within, so without, as in the universe, so in the soul. So if we're seeing it outside of ourselves, it's within inside of ourselves. And these are galaxies and nebulas. This is you and your mother's womb as 1 cell, 2 cells, 4 cells, 8 cells. This is the sacred geometry of a circle, the Vescopiscus, coming down to the seed of life and the flower of life. They're all the same thing. This is another way to see that everything is one. It's all the same vibration expressing geometry, cosmic, and personal. And it appears in geometry everywhere. Your whole body is embedded with spirals that your hand looks the same as our galaxy. You do this, it looks exactly the same as the spiral where our sun is. Won't go down that rabbit hole, but that can open up your world. And to navigate this new age of Aquarius, you need these 4 things. This is something that Katrina is going to do. You want to think through it? It's called the 4 pillars of consciousness. If there's nothing you remember from this talk about the astrology, that's totally great. But if you remember this will be your guidepost on what to do during this time. The 4 pillars of consciousness are where you put your attention, what your intention is behind why you're focusing there. Is your intuition guiding you to do this? And are you in integrity while you're doing this? If you're always confused about am I making the right choice, am I in harmony with the field and the universe, use these 4 principles to check yourself. Or to guide you, maybe that's a better thing. Help navigate. Attention, intention, intuition, and integrity, the 4 pillars of consciousness. If the age of Aquarius is about awakening consciousness, we want to make sure we're in stable grounds, then use these as a guidepost on how to stabilize your consciousness. Let's get this started. About to come into the next phase of our astrology. This is always good to know. I put it every year on the slides because it's always relevant. There are 3 stages of consciousness on this planet. But this also helps navigate where you might feel you're at and also navigate with culture and society and why things are playing out. One level is called spiritualized consciousness, one is called intellectual, and one is physical. If we put this in a pyramid, you can see most consciousness is in the physical realm. Small amount is in the spiritualized, and the intermediate is the intellectualized. So the physical is called consensus of physical reality. It relates to external authority of the planet Saturn. It's ego consciousness. Everything feels fated or karmic or most things do. Why is this happening to me? I don't know, it's random. It's fake. Take this number with a grain of salt, but 75% of people hormonally are in the state of consciousness. I think it should be right now, greatly. The second phase, when people either in one lifetime or many lifetimes start to evolve, they enter individuated or intellectual reality, where they start to move from external authority and start to explore internal authority, which is ruled by the planet Uranus. They start to realize more of a personal consciousness than ego consciousness. And things that were once karma and fate, they begin to understand that their free will had something to do with it. Remember when I said time, space, and karma are curved? What's happening to me? It's my parents' fault. It's the school's fault. It's society's fault. It's the patriarch's fault. It's the banking system's fault. It's not, that is true at this level. At this level, we start to see where we are interacting with that and deepening into what we are creating our own reality. It's hard. This takes a lot of responsibility back to the individual. It doesn't mean it takes these people or this energy off the hook, but we realize that we have integrated into it ourselves, even if we don't like it. And it's about 20% people. The last phase we call spiritualized reality, and it's where one realizes spiritual authority related to the planet Neptune, or collective consciousness or interbeing. This is where free will becomes much more potent because we are not burdened by as much karma. We are not making choices that need to be corrected by karmic needs. And so we start to make choices that are dharmic, where we are choosing to flow with the laws and rules of the universe, and we create harmony. 5% of people hormonally in this phase. And if you and I have talked about this, some we may recognize some of these people, but I think a lot of these people we would just never know. Because they integrate right back into the field, and they're not making. I'm right here. I'm spiritualized consciousness. They're that little sweet person who lives down the street, you know, baking for the neighbors and doing things, and they're just right back into the flow of society, and they're not externally hugely out there, but they make a huge magnetic imprint on all those they touch. Doesn't mean they couldn't have a bigger one, but I feel that a lot of these people are embedded in, but we may not see them. So this time is about shifting karma and dharma. You may not necessarily connect with it, but astrology and these teachings talk about the samsara wheel, the repeated birth, death, and rebirth of the soul. The age of Aquarius is waking up that you're in a cycle. Many people have been looping many times on a life or a pattern and not even knowing within this life or many lifetimes. This is the time to wake up and change the pattern. Skip this. This is a diagram that can be related to psychology, but this is 100% Aquarian energy. Aquarian energy is awakening this to this. And there's the liminal subconscious space, dreams, those little feelings, intuitions come in. We can suppress things down here, or we can allow it to come through. What allows things to come through is revelation and trauma. And it's a free will choice about which one. Like, why did choose this trauma? In some past life, there was a choice about patterns, where there was a pattern instilled to go against the laws of nature or the laws of the universe. And so at a later time, there's a need to be corrected.
Say that again, like we chose, like,
If
did we choose to learn something from it, or we just chose it because we were being naughty or something?
that's one's own individual journey, but my perspective on both the choice to be naughty and the choice to learn is embedded in the same thing. We're testing the field. Maybe I want a little more. I'll take a little more of this money for myself because maybe I can buy something from my mother, but I'm stealing from somebody else. Is that naughty or is that learning? So it's hard, but there's a free will choice always embedded in, and so we learn eventually that what we chose is not in harmonic alignment. I go over this, you skip it. The last part here, before we get into a little more of the astrology, is the law of attraction. People love to talk about this one.
Yeah, they do.
It's karma and dharma. And it's something that becomes lightning fast in the age of Aquarius. And some people say, awesome, I can make $1 million and it'll be mine.
No.
Maybe. Something to remember about the law of attraction is it is everything in your vibrational field. So Aquarius is everything that vibrates. And in your vibrational field is every thought you've ever thought, every feeling you've ever felt, every desire you've ever put out there, every dream, all of your karma and dharma, all of your conscious and unconsciousness is all attracting towards you. All of these are the great attractors. And so it's becoming aware of what it is that you're putting out here. You will draw to yourself a reflection of your entire energetic vibrational field. So just thinking I want $1 million as an example, I'm just a little tongue in cheek. You'll think that, but your feelings are I'm not worthy, I don't deserve it, and I want that, and you know, there's a whole bunch of other magnetic energies pulling.
I think the 4 pillars of consciousness directly relate to this law of attraction. Because if you think about, you said already, consciousness is the electromagnetic field of our being. And the 4 pillars are what hold up our consciousness or that magnetic field. So if your attention, intention, integrity, intuition is all, if you use your analogy of money, what's the integral piece behind the money? Are you wanting the money so you can be better than your neighbor? Are you wanting the money so that you can give it to your family? And what's the attention that you're giving to it? Is it the focus on money driving everything in your life that you're forgetting about your own family, forgetting about your relationships that you're in? So that is what is drawing the energy. You're getting whatever you're putting into the field right back at you. So those 4 pillars are holding up, which is thoughts, feelings, desires, dreams, karma, dharma, conscious, unconscious, all that is the 4 pillars. But to simplify it, those are the 4 things. And you have to be very careful about like disregarding your intuition. If you get a nudge on something and you're like, oh, but that's going to cause a problem and I better not do it because I don't want all that shizzle to come down my way, and you ignore your intuition, you've drawn that energy into the field. That's the law of attraction. Whatever you're ignoring will come.
Any suppressed intuition will always be released at some point. Does that make sense? And hindsight's 2020. So Pluto and Aquarius. So if you look on your current chart, everybody's on the personal birth chart. You'll see in the middle circle there are black symbols, sun and moon, Pluto, all of them. On the outer edge of the circle in light blue, there are green symbols, same symbols. That is where all the astrology is coming up this year. So the inner circle is your birth chart, black symbols. The outer symbols that are light green are the current astrology, at least on the date of January 22nd, 2024. So find where you circled Aquarius on your chart. So not in the very beginning, I had to find this symbol. You circled it or noted it. Somewhere in green above that, on the outer circle, you will find this big P symbol. That's Pluto. So everybody see that?
And Aquarius?
Find Aquarius, find the squiggly line.
Oh, that means.
Everybody find Aquarius in your chart? And then look above it in the light blue outside of the circle, and there'll be a P that looks like this.
Does it have to be inside the sign of Aquarius?
It's right on the edge. It'll be right at the very beginning of Aquarius. It'll be right between Aquarius and Capricorn.
Yeah.
So this is where all of this energy is playing out in your chart for you personally. All that we just talked about. And for 20 years. So it's starting now and persisting for 20 years. Now, there was this handout I gave you. You don't have to reference the handout because it's right here. In everybody's chart in the same place are numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Everybody see that? That in everybody's chart it's the same everywhere. Find out what number Aquarius is floating over where Pluto is. That's the house where in your life this energy will be most focused.
Leave the Aquarius mostly in one house and then the Pluto in another. Is that right?
Yes. But right now, it's starting in the 5th house. And this is just another way of seeing the houses, everything else is pulled out. So the houses go counterclockwise. Now, just as a really quick run through of the houses. The first house, if your Aquarius is floating over the first house or Pluto is, it's going to have a lot to do with yourself and lots of phrases like I am and your personality. If Aquarius and Pluto are floating over your second house, it's going to have a lot to do with your values and things you acquire and I have. If it's floating over your third house, it has a lot to do with what you think in your mind, what you explore. If it's over the fourth house, it's going to have a lot to do with family and your inner child and ancestors. If it's over the fifth house, so we're just going around that circle. I go back to this slide. We're just moving through the houses and then giving quick words to describe. It's that fourth house was family, inner child, ancestors. Fifth house will have a lot to do with that Leo energy, whether you will feel authentic, creative, open-hearted. Sixth house, your Aquarius and Pluto are right here on the outer circle, will have a lot to do with your free will choices, with your daily routine, with your health. These are very quick overviews. I mean, a personalized astrology reading will go much further, and so we're getting like a 30,000 foot view. Does that make sense? Yeah. If it's floating over your seventh house, a lot of relationship stuff will come up for you. Is your life in balance, and how do you relate to others? That's right. If it's floating over your eighth house, you will explore this Aquarian energy through the house of transformation, death, rebirth. This is the most intense house, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It's also the house of vulnerability, where you can be open-hearted and really be who you truly are, but that requires an intention. If it's over the ninth house, it has a lot to do with belief systems. Maybe it's a bubbling away of an old religious way of seeing the world, and you're ready to change radically. Or you struggle and you're going to resist. The 10th house has a lot to do with your career and work, and duties and responsibilities, and how you show up as a leader in the world. The 11th house of Pluto and Aquarius are floating over here. It has a lot of societal, friendship, neighbors, technology. 12th house of Pluto and Aquarius is floating over there. It has a lot to do with your spirituality, how you will endeavor in nature and love. These are very condensed versions of the houses, but it's getting you a way to interpret how these energies might work. The next planet that we're looking at in 2024 is Neptune. And by the way, the order that I'm going is the farthest away from us to the closest in the solar system. Neptune is currently in Pisces and has been there for 12 years. It will be there for another year and a half. From 2011 to 2025, Neptune was slow. Neptune relates to the energy of Pisces, so Neptune is in its home house. If you found Aquarius, you just go one sign over and you'll find Pisces. This is the Pisces symbol, in case you're wondering. And this is Neptune. You're looking for this symbol. It's a trident. It's going to be very close to Pluto, maybe that distance away on your chart. Does everybody see Neptune? In green, the green Neptune. So Neptune, in its last year and a half, all of 2024, is going to be exploring energies of spirituality, things that are eternal and divine, things that are mystical, how we connect to nature and the universe, things that are universal, love, how we relate to God and spirit, things that are transcendental, things that are mysterious to us, things that are non-dual, and relates to peace. So whatever house it's floating over, this is the part of your life that it will interact with most profoundly. It's been a 12-year journey so far. You can reflect over the past 12 years, and let's say that your Neptune is over your 7th house. Say this is Pisces in your chart, and this is Neptune. There's been a lot to be realized about spirituality through your relationships. Not just romantic, but that's a big one. Doesn't mean you like the lessons necessarily, but you have learned a lot about your spirituality through relationship. If your Neptune and Pisces is over the 2nd house, you may have learned a lot about your spiritual self through your possessions, through your home, through your work. Getting fired from a job or promoted taught you some deep spiritual lessons. Does that make sense?
Can we go back to the page where it says what the houses are beneath? Thank you.
Did you get that, Gina?
That's right.
I'll print this out. I'll send this good out for you. So this is a simplified thing, but the first house relates to any statement that you would, as an example, that you would put, I am a woman, I am a tennis player, I am an architect, I am 27, I am rich and poor, I am always the one who doesn't get picked for the soccer ball team. But it's funny, but it's not funny. These are all pointing to deeper truth. And how you use this phrase, I am, is a lot about how you relate to personal consciousness. And then 2nd house is how you use the verb I have. 3rd house is how you use the verb I think. I feel, I will, I choose, I balance, I transform, I know, I fulfill, I realize, I surrender. I'll give this out to everybody. So Neptune is not changing much in 2024, which is why there's not much information about it. It's staying in the same place that it was. It's moving a little bit further forward. And so the themes that you had around spirituality and where Neptune is to stay fairly similar in 2024. The weather around that will stay fairly consistent. The next planet is Uranus. And it's this symbol. It looks a lot like Neptune, but it's different. Neptune had a cross down here, and it had just the upper part of the trident. Uranus had the up and down trident, and it's in the sign of Taurus. Right? You see this O with the horns. This is going to be in a very different part of the chart. It's green. And then find the green symbol for Uranus on the outside of the chart. That's where this energy is. Uranus has been in Taurus since 2019. Won't be there for another 2.5 years. What we're doing is called transit astrology, how the current energies of astrology are going to affect you personally.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So is it common to have each one of these planets in their home sign?
At some point, they will always return home. Neptune is home once every 140 years. So Neptune won't be back into Pisces. Once it leaves in 2025, it won't be back there till the year 22 something, 2220.
But I mean, in your own chart.
Oh, in your own chart?
Yeah.
In your birth chart?
No, in your linear chart. Like all my green are all in their home. My Pluto's in Aquarius. And
Yeah, this is for everybody.
Oh, it's the same.
It's the same. It's the same for her, for her, for her. Good question, though.
It's a state of current being. That's your.
Uranus is in Taurus, so it's not in Taurus. But so far, Aquarius and Pluto are
Pisces is the only one so far that's in its home sign, and Neptune. And it will leave its home sign in 2025. So Uranus in Taurus has a lot. Uranus is sky. Uranus is also the same as Aquarian Energy. So every planet has a sign that it relates to. And so This one has a lot to do with revolution and evolution. So wherever Uranus is in your chart, where you're receiving revelations or traumas or revealings in your life. Taurus has a lot to do with money, farming, minerals, material wealth, food, pharmacy, values, home, business, body. Taurus is the material world, and Uranus is spiritual transformation. And so it's a lightning bolt hitting material things. It can be transformative in a way that we find harmonic or revelation. Wow, amazing! My life is so synchronistic. All the things are falling in place. Holy crap! What a year! I felt like I got hit by lightning 9 times. But both are awakening you to the way that spirit is guiding you, or your internal heart, the inner sun.
An example is, farming has been traditionally government funded, lots of, chemicals, etc. And we're now becoming aware of the benefits of regenerative farming that is blending the two, revolution, innovation, and the farming. And another one would be Bitcoin and all the cryptocurrency for money and finance blending with technology a little bit is another example of how that looks right now in our day.
So Uranus is putting revolution into all of these things. For the collective and you personally, wherever you see Uranus and Taurus in your own chart, where this electrical energy is hitting these things personally. And like I said, it can be a shock and awe, or it can be sudden shifts, instability. It can be instantaneous.
But what if it's right on the line?
Now it's on the cusp between 2 houses.
Yeah.
It's influencing both.
Okay.
It's like right now we're sort of on the cusp between fall and winter. That makes sense. And so the big date to watch out for is April 20th. Or maybe not watch out, but this is the field energy. Uranus will be conjunct with the planet Jupiter. So the 2 big energies will come together in Taurus in your chart. And Jupiter, we'll talk about it in a moment, but Jupiter has to do with things that are what you believe in and what you feel and what you're visioning for. And I'm questing for that. And I believe in this. And I trust that. And the energy of electricity and sudden change is hitting that. It doesn't mean whether it's bad or good, but it's a revelation. Sudden electrical change hits our belief system. Something is like, oh my gosh, I couldn't see that before, but now I understand, and now I see. Or holy crap, I was so dense and delusional. April 20th. And also the thing with astrology, it's not always the exact date. Sometimes think of astrology exactly. These are fields of energy. And so this field of energy is about a 2-month energy. 1 month before the energy is coming into the field and 1 month after it's persisting. But this is the height of it. Does that make sense? Just the same way that June 21st is the summer solstice. But there's a field of energy around there when summer's coming in and summer feels like summer. Same with astrology. So just mark that date or that time and know where it is on your chart. So it's wherever Uranus is and that there's the Uranus symbol. And of course, where we have that green roll with the horns, that awakening and revelatory energy is coming into your belief system. It can also affect travel. It can also affect higher learnings. Our next planet is Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces, and so wherever you found Neptune, go back to where you found Neptune, very close by, somewhere in that sign you'll find Saturn. Saturn's symbol is this one, the cross with the H, also in Pisces. Saturn has been in Pisces since March 2023 and will persist until February 2026. Sometimes I like to put previous cycles. Last time Saturn was in Pisces was in the 90s. And when Saturn was in there in the 90s, it had a lead up with the planet Uranus, and that's when the internet was turned on. Uranus, it rules the internet, and Saturn puts things into form and structure.
I think, maybe point out that if you see your green chart and your black chart, your natal chart and what's happening today, if there's some congruencies, like, oh, my Saturn is in the same place as where he's talking about, that's an extra hit to you.
Is anybody 29 or 30 close together? Anybody 58 or 57? Guess nothing. If you're 29 to 30, 31, your Saturn will be in the same place now as it was when you were born. If you're 57, 58, Saturn will be in the same place now as it was when you were born, or the second time. I don't think anybody's in that bracket. You're in the 80s. That's called a Saturn return. So a solar return is your birthday. The sun goes back to where it was when you were born. All the other planets will return back to where they were when you were born. Some of them. Pluto's 248 years.
You won't see that.
So not your average person having Pluto return. Methuselah had a few. But Saturn, you have a Saturn return at age 30, and Saturn is checking in around spiritual law. Are you following your karma and dharma? Have you done what your soul has asked you to do this lifetime? For a lot of people around age 30, there's a big wake-up call. And it's a 2-year field, so it's not one day. And there's a deep maturing around 30. You either get a new job, people get married, they get divorced, they have a baby, grandparent dies, parent dies, they move to a new place. But something major usually happens during that time that shakes us up to deepen into our understanding of ourselves. And if we don't understand it at that time, we have another 30-year cycle.
To get it right.
Get it right. So 58. Saturn in Pisces is about spiritual law, cosmic teachings, ultimately about learning unconditional love, but we can learn it through the opposites from conditional love. We also find that we are operating in conditional love. I can't love that person, they believe this political view. Or, that's an example. And Saturn says, you need to learn to love everybody. Returning to the ancient ways is Saturn in Pisces, remembering this ancient wisdom, deepening into spiritual connection, trust and faith, and aligning with your karma and dharma. So wherever Saturn is, which is close to Neptune, it's helping that Neptune energy teach you lessons that you need to learn from your soul. From a soul level, you chose all these lessons. From a personal level, you might not like them all.
Yeah, no kidding.
That makes sense. That doesn't mean you have to dislike them, but there might be some lessons you're learning that are very hard.
Yeah.
Why do I keep dating the same bad person? Funny, but not funny. Saturn will conjunct Neptune. This is in 2025, but just to keep an eye on that. In July of 2025, this is a big energy, very big. For our planet, it's the start of a new cycle. So whenever two planets conjunct, it's the start of a clock again. This is the start of a clock that's 165-year clock. So remember I said astrology has different clocks of consciousness, 26,000 year one. There's the yugas, which are about 4,000 or 5,000 years. There's the ages that are 2,000 years. There's Saturn, that's 30 years. This cycle is a 165-year cycle. And even if you're not going to live out the full cycle, it's going to have a potent impact on your chart in whatever house you're in. Just make note, July 2025. This energy is more about a year-long energy in its beginning. So it will come in about July 2024, we'll start to feel it. July 2025 is when it's starting. Jupiter is our next planet, our next energy. Jupiter is in Taurus, Bull. It went in 2023 and it will leave in May 2024, so this year. Its last sign that it was in Aries. And Jupiter in Taurus is about practical knowledge, putting things to use. If you have a vision of something you want to do, it says do it. I want to write that book. Well, then write the book. I want to deepen my spiritual practice. Well, then do it. So there's the vision. Jupiter's the vision. And the bull says, get down into it. Do the physical reality. Have tapas. Have fire. Find out the details. Do the things. Get into the nitty-gritty part of the human being side of realizing the vision. So wherever, and this will be close to Uranus, because Uranus is also in Taurus, wherever you found Uranus, you'll find Jupiter close by. Now in May, Jupiter will leave and enter into the sign of Gemini, the next sign over. This is learning how to walk in both worlds, vision quest of the mind and heart. Gemini is duality, it's physical and non-physical. And Jupiter is having trust and belief that both worlds can be united. For a lot of people who are stepping into the spiritual path, well, I can't be spiritual around my mom and not at work and not with that group of friends, and I can't post about it, but in these few situations I can be spiritual. Gemini is saying make it equal everywhere.
Yeah.
Or do the opposite and go into more separation and division and see how you feel. This is Jupiter and Gemini, balancing our two energies, our masculine and feminine, through all of the chakras, balancing your solar and lunar, your Shiva Shakti, your Ida Pingala. These are the Greek words for the two energies, Python and Pythia. It's the divine marriage. This is the positive expression, Jupiter and Gemini. Learning how to bring both energies together, science and spirit. You know, they say cognition and intuition, heart and mind. Gemini energy. So wherever Gemini is in your chart, wherever the symbol is, in May, it's going to initiate lots of information, curiosity, analyzing, questioning, seeking different soul lessons, finding things to be more adaptable, realizing there's subjective truth, a lot of community stuff, realizing that things can be dual and local, knowledge, investigation, communication, all related to the internet, to nervous system, your lungs, and frequency and vibration. So Jupiter is going to awaken this energy a lot more in May. And on June 2nd, another big Jupiter energy. Jupiter will join Pluto. Pluto, the one that just went into Aquarius, Pluto, the energy that's calling in this new soul searching and conscious awakening. Jupiter, whatever energy it connects to, amplifies it even bigger, makes it huge. And so something around this time, personally and probably globally, will spark something about this Aquarian energy to a greater level. Trines are harmonious, so this is a supportive thing, but we can choose to ignore it, but it probably won't be ignorable. And also, this is a field date. While it could be on June 2nd, this field is open for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. This is Jupiter, or he's searching for it. In May, Jupiter will go in Gemini, and it will stay there for a year. So whatever unfolds at that time in June will probably have, at the very beginning, a year-long impact, not longer, for you personally and probably for the collective. Mars. Mars moves quick. Mars will start the year in Sagittarius and go all the way to Cancer by the end of the year. So more than halfway around the wheel of astrology. In your chart on the green, it's probably currently sitting in Sagittarius, this symbol. But by the end of the year, it'll be in this symbol, Cancer. So now those planets that we went through, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, Jupiter, Saturn, they're called the transpersonal and societal planets. They move slow. They have longer term influence. Now we're hitting the personal planets. They move fast. Their influence of time is shorter and quicker moving. Does that make sense? And they're called the personal. So Mars in anybody's chart is their masculine and their energy of desire. The big lesson around Mars always, wherever it is in your personal birth chart or currently, is how to align your personal desires with the soul desire. And the ancients have always personified this in many ways. One is the pyramid. The soul is this much of the pyramid, and this is the conscious self. This goes back to that iceberg analogy that I showed. It's the same thing. It's on the dollar bill, by the way. When you flip a dollar bill over, there's a pyramid that's cut right here. There's a seeing eye. And you say, why is that pyramid on the dollar bill? It's teaching about aligning the personal self with the soul. And the cut is if we're not aware, we're a floating head that doesn't know the consequences of our actions, free will choices, and karmas. But at some point, it's going to curve around. And we're going to learn about the things that we chose. Mars will conjunct Neptune. This is probably one of the bigger energies of Mars or your personal self of the year on April 28th. So this will be in Pisces. So Mars will start in Sagittarius at the beginning of the year. It will go into Capricorn, Aquarius, and then by April it's in Pisces. And this is an opportunity to see how you're using your willpower, your masculine energy, your yang energy in the world. And so wherever Neptune is, are you aligning with your spiritual desires or are you aligning with personal desires? Not saying whether it's bad or good, but it's a illumination about how you're using your willpower and free will in relationship to your soul purpose. This is Mars. You're looking for the symbol.
That's probably into the natal chart as well.
Mars is in the natal chart as well.
That's right, it's in alignment, or did I just imagine?
Is it in alignment?
Is it usually in the same house?
It could be.
Okay.
Every year and a half, Mars will return back to where it was for 2 years. So every 2 years, Mars will be in the exact same sign, the same house as your birth month. So all of you have had many Mars returns. Half as many as you hold. If you're 40, you've had 20 Mars returns. But make note, if you're having a Mars return, like if Mars was in Pisces when you were born, and Mars is going back to Pisces, it's more potent for you. Every time a planet returns back to where it was, especially when you go back to your birth home, things come up in the field for you to consider and think about. And if you're ignoring them, then experiences come into your field that you can't ignore. Have a look at this. Venus. Venus moves as quick as the sun. So Venus goes around the zodiac once every year. So I didn't put it in a particular sign because it's going to go through all the signs in everybody's chart. But wherever Venus is, it relates to self-love, self-worth, money and finance. These are usually the things that people want to know about when they start in astrology, and telling about my job, my relationship, and my family.
But are you still talking about on the outside, the green symbols, the Venus, or on the inside?
Well, both. You can find where your Venus is in your chart, wherever Venus is, the black Venus in the inner wheel, where this is all playing out throughout the course of your whole life. And wherever Venus is in the green, it's where it's lighting it up at the current time. But Venus moves quick. It goes through a house and a sign every 2 months. So to say how Venus is going to influence your year, unfortunately, it's harder to do because now it's moving quickly through your chart and it's going to touch every house. Does that make sense? But if you're having something come up in your life around money and finance, buying a home, how my body is operating, real estate, food, look to where your Venus is, your natal Venus. And then find the green Venus and say, how's it playing out right now? Venus is also a pyramid energy, where Venus is very personal, and we want to understand Venus related to our deeper creative soul power, which is Lilith. We talk about Lilith right now, it's a whole other thought. But you have an awareness of it. Venus is, if you're looking for Venus just in the sky, Venus is in the east. It's called the morning star from August 2023 to 2025. So every morning, if you look out to the east before sunrise, whatever the brightest star is, Venus, always for the next year and a half. And over time, over 8 years, Venus draws this pattern in the sky. Isn't that beautiful? And Venus has to do with beauty and form and structure. And she draws the most beautiful 5-point star, which relates to the flower of perfection, the rose. That's Venus. Mercury. People like Mercury, but this one because it's all hard to retrograde. So here's the Mercury retrograde. This was the first one. Mercury will retrograde here in 10 days. And it will go forward in a year. So Mercury is setting a tone for the whole year. One way to look at seasonal astrology is what's happening on the 1st of January is a chart for the whole year. So it's interesting. Mercury is going direct the first day of the year. It's going to be in the sign of Capricorn and Sagittarius. Wherever you can find Capricorn and Sagittarius is where this retrograde is influencing you. There are 3 other retrogrades throughout the year. April 1st to April 25th, that would be in the sign of Aries. August 4th to the 28th, that'll be in the sign of the Leo and Virgo. And then November 25th to December 15th at the end of the year, that will be in the sign of Sagittarius. Wherever Mercury is retrograding, whatever house it's going over, we're needing to review, to reflect, to restore, to reverse something. So Mercury, the reason why some people go about the retrograde is because it influences communication, travel, technology. Those are the 3 big things that if they go wrong, we have to stop our life and refigure it out. And it's like, well, that's annoying. Well, spiritually speaking, if something's going down on those levels, we have to stop and turn around because we're going down the wrong path. And we're not paying attention. And so if you're getting delayed in travel, or something weird happens with money, or communication, email where you're complaining about somebody gets sent to somebody, you shouldn't have been doing that. Does that make sense? Mercury will illuminate where we are misaligned with those energies and make us have to turn around and go backwards and take care of it. And if we don't do it the second time, the third time, the energy becomes more intense. There's the Mercury symbol. Mercury retrograde don't have to do that, by the way. Well, these are the whole thing about that. Well, these are having the 2 energies, the Ida and Pingala, they're shown coming out of the 3rd eye point so that we are aware of the masculine and feminine imbalance. That's one of the spiritual ways and symbols of the horns. You can think of a devil, which you can also think of a moose, a reindeer, or a deer, or any of the ungulated animals with horns. It's like antennas coming out so that we tune into cosmic knowledge, something beyond our personal stuff. The cross and all the symbols have to do with the material cross, the material world and the spiritual world, and in the middle is your spiritual heart, which the age of Aquarius is trying to awaken. All of the astrology symbols have lots of peace, esoteric information, and you can meditate on them. This one I won't go over too much because these nodes are in Aries and Libra all year. They shift at the beginning of 2025. The nodes have to do with this symbol. Yeah. Wherever you find this symbol, sometimes it's hard for people to find. If this one will be the sign of Aries. This is where your soul wants to evolve towards, grow towards, become your higher self. This is where you want to move towards and open up towards the future. So this symbol is where we want to go, individually and collectively. In Aries, it's about being soulful and truthful and open-hearted. It's about good leadership, being purposeful, having the 4 pillars of intention. Why are you doing this? Where is your intention? Is this intuitive and are you in integrity? It's self-discipline, it's being trustworthy, courageous, honest, persistent. So wherever this symbol is showing up in the read, where it's asking you to do these things. Wherever this symbol is the opposite, in Libra, has to do with past lives, healing, repeated patterns that you keep doing, an evolutionary need for change, karma, what needs to be brought to the light, but also hidden gifts. All of these, which seem negative, are hiding something that's harmonic. And the way this is showing up disharmonic is where are you being codependent? Where are you being controlling? Where are you being lazy? Where are you being unbalanced and unequal? Where are you having power struggles in your life? Where do you feel unsecure? Where are you unfocused? Where are you fearful? Where are you indecisive or selfish? You get the idea. Wherever this symbol is, which is in the sign of Libra, this whole year, is where you're being asked to work out this. eclipses. Or eclipses always come in pairs that are 2 weeks apart, and they always come in the pairs that are 6 months apart from each other, always. The general wisdom about eclipses, you can write down the dates, it's an opening and closing of a portal or a state of consciousness. Eclipses can get weird. Doesn't mean bad or good, but it's like things come up and out of the subconscious realm and they bubble into our lives. And they can come in quick and they can go out quick. And they can be totally life-changing. You want to say anything about eclipses?
Is that 2024's eclipses?
Yeah.
So disregard that.
Oh, sorry.
This one is a visible one this year.
Yes, this one, April 8th, is the last total eclipse for the United States until the year 1945. And this is the swap of totality. On a road trip on April 8th.
I actually am.
Let's do it.
My family's all getting together in Texas to see it.
Yeah. This will be one of the longest total eclipses too. It'll be almost 5 minutes, which is rare. They're mostly 2 and 3 minutes. We'll be able to experience it in Colorado. It'll be a partial eclipse. See it here. It'll be dark. This is the totality path. And our last thing that we'll look at is Chiron, the wounded healer. It's been in Aries for 7 years. Wherever you see this sign, Chiron will be making a conjunction with the North Node this year on February 19th, so soon. So the direction that we want to go, that our soul is intending to go, our wounds are hitting that spot. And so this can be a beautiful opportunity where once seeing what was wounded, broken, not working, is really where our greatest medicine and gift potential lies.
Okay. And some of you might have a Chiron return if you're 49 to 51. It might be natal chart aligning with the same conjunction.
So you'll find Chiron, the symbol in the green, over that Aries symbol, and on February, it's going to go to
When did you click on this?
February 19th. Conjunction North Node.
Oh,
And the last slide, and then the middle of the sun, so you have the dates. All the retrogrades, so all the planets in the retrograde, not just Mercury. And not unusual. Here's Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, Jupiter. So these are the dates. A lot of it is happening during the late spring, summer, and early fall.
And you can look at your natal chart for the black and your planet, if it has a little tiny R next to it. Just a little baby R, that means your planet was retrograde when you were born. So these retrogrades, those dates are extra potent for you. So if you look at the black planet, not the green planet, on your chart, if you have a little tiny R, that planet was retrograde when you were born, and when they hit retrograde again, it's extra influence. You vibe well with it.
I'll leave that slide up. This one, no, and that there are energies of 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All of this energy both applies to you personally and the collective. So astrology works both ways. You can look at just how it personally influences you or personally reflects you. And you can use this as a guidepost of the energies that are flowing or the spiritual seasons that are going to be playing out in 2024. The last bit I'll leave you with is all of this is always interacting with free will choice. When someone says, is it going to be a good or a bad year? It's always dependent upon the free will choices we make.
Yeah, cool.
What is the internal lines of the retrogrades?
The internal lines are called the aspects. For like conjunction, square, trines. And they have to do with, for your birth chart, the quality of how your intervals playing out. For example, somebody's Mercury could be, your birth Mercury could be square your sun. Squares are challenges. Quick example of what that might mean is you have a really hard time communicating with others and you can't get your words out and you can't explain what's going on in your inner world. Another way to say this is what karma, the soul's here to figure out how to learn communication so that you're not saying things that create problems, or you're always shutting up and not saying what's your truth, and you're how I think inside receiving. I mean those inner lines reflect the quality of different parts of yourself.
Red lines are challenges or more dynamic. And blue lines are harmonious or more flowing.
What lines were you talking about?
She was asking generally about the lines inside the chart, and I was just making up an example for why I mean, so it's not for anybody.
Michael doesn't plug this, but I will, you guys can for coming, and they're very helpful. So if the questions that you might have more specific to your chart, you set up an appointment with them, he gives you an hour and a half of very concentrated focus to your chart, and you get 20% off when you essentially with this, so that helps quite a bit.
And Katrina does spiritual counseling, so I figure everything out. Okay.
Good TV.
That was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Shri Ganesha,